Hello, welcome back to another episode, the final episode of the GK Union podcast, World Cup edition, not the final episode of the podcast ever. As
I've been carrying on.
yeah, I think we will probably carry on. It'll be the two of us at least, maybe some guests, maybe some of the original crew might one day return a message and turn up to record. Until then, it'll be just the two of us sharing opinions and views that nobody ever asked for.
Yeah.
But we made it to the end of the World Cup, and I struggle to buy into Infantino claiming it was the best World Cup ever. I think there were some excellent moments in this World Cup, and particularly for goalkeepers.
Yeah, I think it was a very good World Cup. I just enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, same. I do think it was a good World Cup. I just think that there were too many moments that distracted us from the football, to be honest with you. But
I suppose most, but the middle of it was all right. There was a period during the kind of early knockouts and then the group stage games, which was prosperous and all about the football. But the ending of the start was just calamitous. And
yeah, the build-up was a joke. The opening, I would say the group phase was pretty good. That kind of rumbled through relatively okay. I remember us saying on one of the earlier episodes, we were surprised that there's not been the chaos that we thought there would be. Q, Balogun getting sent off, and it was like the moment where it all changed.
Flipped again, didn't it? And it went back to being a calamitous tournament and kind of stayed that way. Always some talking point besides football.
Yeah. However, we're obviously, yes, we're going to review the final. We will get to that in a moment, the centerpiece. But I think the final of everyone's hearts was Saturday night, which was France-England, where, I'll be honest, the football 100% was centre stage and stole the show. And I thought it was a great advert for, I know a lot of people say it's a glorified friendly, but I think after the controversy of the England-Argentina game, the media funfair on social media about is it being rigged for Argentina, that it was just good to see two teams sacrifice defending in any great manner and just go and score on a 10-goal feast that was just an enjoyable watch, where there wasn't any controversy, there wasn't any contentious moments. It was just a showcase of some really good football. And I thought, what a fitting way for the tournament to come to a close. Only we had one more game to go, which didn't disappoint either, I guess.
No, for the reasons. The thing that I didn't watch any of the Saturday games because I was out fair at the finals day, and when I did get home and saw it, was go back to the hotel, watched 5 minutes of it, and then passed out immediately. So missed the rest of another 6 goals. Which I woke up to before they were lying to me. But yes, what a waste of time.
See, I thought it was a really good game. Also, I think
it's hard to say it's a good game in the end just because of the result and the fact there's just loads of goals. But both teams didn't really. Well, I think England gave a shit, but England fans didn't give a shit. The French, evidently in the first half, did not give a shit in the slightest, and it made us look like we were really good. And then as soon as the French actually turned it on, it showed how shit we stood up, and the fact that if it was any other game, and if they actually cared in the first half, we were in that game.
Yeah, I guess it's a difficult one, isn't it, to say? But what I would say is, I think personally, I would rather finish third at a World Cup than finish second, because if you finish third at a World Cup, your final game results in a win. It's a positive experience of being given your medals, as opposed to losing in a final, which is the most gutting thing ever. We'd experienced it in 2 consecutive Euros. So I'd rather that. I'd rather be in the final. But I think if you're going to finish second or third, I think finishing third is actually a more positive experience on the basis that you get an immediate opportunity after the disappointment of not reaching the final to put it right. And whilst it isn't a game where either team overly care too much, I think ultimately it's it's a bet for me. It's a better way to end a tournament on a high with a win to collect your medals than again, being beaten in a final and then you're having to watch the opposition collect the trophy and what have you. Like, if you're not in the final, that's not as painful to watch. And I think it's a good, and also you lose a World Cup final, you've got to wait 4 years before your opportunity.
I don't mind, at least. I'd much rather be in the final to begin with and lose it rather than be in the third and fourth playoff where it is literally, I'm sorry, but it's 6-4. There is a reason why that is such a high scoring game. It was a great game, but just for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't like if that did watch it, you can't say for all the wrong reasons. I'm sorry, but if there's a real, I would have watched it anyway. It's just the fact that there was nothing else on. I then watched it. It just so happened I was doing nothing for 5 minutes of my day and happened to be watching it. Seeing we were following up, it just summed up that nobody cared. It was a pointless game that basically showed nothing but the fact that the French really don't give a shit about finishing third because they have been there and won it. And I would understand that because they have won it. They don't really care about finishing third because it means nothing. A lot of people are very happy about finishing third. And for me, again, yeah, it's good. It is the highest finish since 1966. So that is an achievement in itself. But obviously, with the way we went about, we got there. And just the fact that game was just a 6-4 in a third and fourth place playoffs. That is, it's great, but it's embarrassing.
I think the attitude of it is actually wrong though, in terms of saying that it doesn't matter, because if you look at like the Olympics, for example, the bronze medal match is still an important match, but both teams are attempting to win because everybody wants to achieve a medal. I think the fact that the third and fourth place match at a World Cup is maybe not seen with the same attitude comes down to the simple fact that when you lose a semi-final, it's referred to as you've gone out. You're out of the World Cup. And whilst you're out of the chances of winning the World Cup, like you're still technically in it. In the Olympics, they don't say, they say they haven't qualified for the gold medal match, but they say that they still say they're in the bronze medal match, and there's still something to play for. And I think that's perhaps a reflection of maybe the attitudes need to be adjusted, because again, I don't think there's any shame in winning a bronze medal in any form of competition. It's a very solid and strong achievement. I think you summed up quite nicely in that it is our best finish since '66, and I think it is something to be proud of. There's still a lot to work on. I just think that a bit like with the last game of the season, if you lose the last game of the season, it feels like it's a long pre-season before you get the opportunity to put it right. If you lose the final of the World Cup, you've got to wait 4 years for your opportunity to try and put that right. Whereas at least if you go out in the semi-final, if you win the third and fourth place playoff, you end on a high. So it doesn't feel, yes, it's still frustrating. Yes, it's still disappointing not to be at the final, but at least you've got that little bit of salvation where you go, do you know what? We ended the tournament well. We've got a medal, and you can kind of draw a line rather than having that 4-year period of just being like, we need to get back to the World Cup. We need to get to the final. We need to go one better. Like with the Euros, because we've lost the last 2 in the final, it feels like the next Euros we're so desperate to try and win it. And it's an absolute must, because each time we've been at the Euros in the last two occasions, we've lost in the final.
Yeah, but that thing, right, is just something that you just want to see. It's a nice to see the fact that we came so close. Yes, it hurts more, but it hurts. I'd rather have that hurt losing in the final rather than having the hurt losing in the semi-final. It just is a better feeling. Because then you're playing, like, I don't think we do in the Euros. We don't have a third and fourth playoff, do we? I don't think we do. And I love this series, and as we haven't. And so I love the fact that if we don't, I'm glad that we don't, because I don't know, it's just, for me, it's just pointless and meaningless. Like, yeah, we finished third, great. It's our highest finish, but we didn't win it. It's a pointless game, and it's just players stat padding, like Saka scoring a hat trick when, so evidently he was fully fit, evidently he can play well. So why he wasn't playing well for the entire of the tournament and looking like a shadow of himself just goes to show that we're either super far away than where we think, or coming close to any final, or the World Cup final, that is anyway, or just even winning full stop. Because like I say, we get to European finals but can't get over the last hurdle. But then we get to the World Cup and then we get to semi-finals on 2 occasions of the last 3 attempts. Can't get over that last hurdle. Like, maybe the players there are some players that just don't have the bottle in them. So I'm pretty sure wasn't Saka one of the players that missed a penalty in the Euro final as well. He didn't perform this World Cup. He just doesn't seem like he's a big stage player. Wasn't particularly impressive this season for Arsenal.
Like, something that raises a bit of a valid point though, because I've said for a while, there's a tendency in this country when you have young players that come through academies and get into first team football that they get elevated to a much higher stature than they're at very quickly. We saw it with, we've seen it with Saka, but we've seen it with Rashford. We saw it as like Jesse Lingard, Mason Greenwood. You see it with Max Dowman is another one that there's a risk factor around because everyone last season was hyping him up so much. We saw it Kobbie Mainoo in his breakthrough season. And I think we have this wonderful ability to get swept up in we saw it with Theo Walcott. I feel like the only player who's perhaps exceeded his hype as a teenager for England and domestically was probably Wayne Rooney. Was the last time where a player burst onto the scene and you go, God, this lad's going to be fucking special. And he genuinely was and had a prolonged career at the absolute top. Outside of that, the amount of players that have burst onto the scene who are going to be the next best thing in the world and then just don't actually kick on and progress. Calvin Phillips was another one. Obviously, when you guys moved to Man City, Jack Grealish is another one. Like, these players that we magnify and claim that they are in the same categories as your Mbappes and your Ronaldos and your Messis. And then we go to major tournaments and you go, oh, it's unbelievable. We look at our squad, it's absolutely insane. And you look at it objectively and go, well, is it insane? Because we've been banging on about how good Bukayo Saka is. But if you look at his stats over the last 3 seasons, they're good, but they're not exceptional. There's players putting out much better stats season on season in the Premier League.
Not sure about a national thing though. Is it because, again, Yamal's been doing it for 3 years now and still performing the best, still winning things. Ronaldo was the same when he was coming through, was performing well. I think Messi was the same. Mbappe was the same. Like, you got players from, even if you take, I can't remember who won the Spanish young player, the tournament. Anyway, he's 19 years old as well. And
that was at the World Cup.
Yeah,
Kibasi.
Yeah, Brazil. He won, again, the Young Player of the Tournament award, and he's 19 as well. And he's a part of a World Cup winning squad, and he was fantastic in that final as well. So it just goes to show the fact that it can be done, but it just seems to be English players that from a young age just can't seem to handle it. And to be fair, our fans, we are twats. Like, we're horrible to our own players at the best of times anyway. But
yeah, I think I'll like it abroad. Our fans, our media, we have a tendency to, and again, Harry Kane said it after the Mexico game, I think, or was it the Norway game? Can't remember which one it was. Norway, because
it was rather jubilee on Tuchel thing.
Yeah, and he summed up well that, ultimately it feels like the media just like to try and find a way of planting a negative seed and like trying to create some form of rift and conflict between, like, within the camp, which is really strange because as a nation we are desperate to win the World Cup, and it does baffle me. But I do think we have a tendency to magnify how good players are and how effective they're going to be on the world stage. And I think one of the players you referenced there, obviously Yamal. I think when you look at him, I think he's almost fits into that same category as the likes of Saka's and Walcott's and players like that, where yes, he's exceptionally talented and he is doing it. He is having a great career and he's only 19. But you look at this World Cup, like, he scored 1 goal and bagged a couple of assists. Like, I wouldn't say he was overly influential. I don't think he had the best World Cup. I think he's benefited by the fact that when you look at Spain, when you look at teams like obviously Germany, when they bought their youth through, what these other nations do brilliantly that we don't is they have an identity and a style of play that gets imprinted from like the age of like 6 or 7. And you learn to play a style of football and you come through. And then if you're good enough and you're in academies for Spain and you go through the age groups, you play a set way the whole way through. And it becomes very easy to transition in. And then you get your random outliers like Yamal's, who are exceptional players who are probably 2 or 3 sort of steps above other players in their age group who stand out. But ultimately, even if they have a slightly flat tournament, which I think he did in this World Cup, I don't think he was.
I think he was all right, but I think they didn't have Williams out on the left.
Yeah.
And so it was all going through him. And so they were all going towards him. So I can see why he was just basically being man-marked the entire time. Whereas you don't get that with like your French, because You have so many outlets, and Arsenal just have 0 outlets.
The good thing from a Spain perspective, and the reason why they've gone on to win the World Cup, is even when you're exceptional talent that could theoretically be the creative spark that everything goes through, even when they're not performing brilliantly, because they've had this identity of how they play football from the youngest age group right the way through to the men's national team, invariably you end up with an entire squad that might not necessarily be from 1 to 11 the best players in the world for their respective positions, but collectively they become the hardest working, the most unified squad. And I wasn't massively impressed throughout the tournament with how Argentina played, but they had this innate ability of getting a win from somewhere, whether that's thanks to corruption, as we spoke about in the last episode, whether they were being gifted some results and some decisions. But when they came up against a team that ultimately don't need to have 1 to 11, the greatest team in the same respect that you might say France 1 to 11 are all exceptional, Spain 1 to 11 are 11 players plus however many come off the bench who know exactly how to play and can all achieve the same levels of effort, which make it so difficult to play against. So the team that had been struggling throughout the tournament but getting by and getting results got made to look utter shit because they couldn't even get near Spain.
Yeah, they have like a form of DNA, and people like nations like England will never have that. Will never have that edge. Like even if Spain have an off year, they'll then come back the next tournament and they'll probably go and win it, just because that's what Spain do.
Yeah, and again, I think if you look at the way that their squad has evolved, obviously they had that period of superiority where they won the Euros and the World Cup around 2008. And 2010, wasn't it?
In 2012,
did they go 2 Euros and a World Cup?
And 2 Euros and a World Cup.
So they had that corridor where they were exceptional, and then obviously that squad began to age out. It's not been that long in between until they built an entirely new squad who are all particularly young, with the exception of 1 or 2 senior players, the likes of your Rodris, who are reaching the wrong side of 30, but just provide that level of experience and maturity in the team. It's quite concerning for the rest of the footballing world that they've not even really dropped off. They got done like a Germany where they've just been dog shit since they aged out and can't seem to repeat it. They just went a little bit quiet, quarter-final, semi-final sort of team, hard to beat still, and now all of a sudden it's like,
yeah, just having thought that. Well, England are going through something of the same, because next World Cup, not sure if Kane will be in it. Like say, if Hakima's, I don't think he's the type of striker that will age well and end up trying to drop off like Rooney did, and we all know that doesn't work. Pickford probably won't be in the next one either, because he'll probably be too old. Stones, the same. We're going to go through that, and I can't see the next World Cup being much better, because there's a lot of young players coming through at the moment.
Again, you say it's a difficult one, because again, if you look at the next age group down, in terms of obviously replacement with Pickford, you look at James Trafford, you look at players like Gibbs White, and that are at a level where they could play for the men's team now. They're all part of that same under 17s and then under 21s team that won their respective Euros. I mean, the under 21s went back to back in the Euros. So again, I think there's a potential there that we could bring through an age group of players that are exceptionally good, and it's reflective of what countries like Spain have done or what Germany did for 2014. The worry for me is that we've spoken about it before, both on air and off air. The worry for me is that it feels like certain national teams like Spain, France, probably not Germany so much at the moment, and Brazil at the moment, but certainly historically, you could pretty much pick 8 to 10 of their starting 11 for every time they played over an 8-year period. You'd be like, yeah, this will be their team. You can pretty much pick what the France team is going to be. You can pretty much pick what the Spanish team is going to be. You can pretty much pick, unfortunately, you can pretty much pick what the Argentinian team is going to be. But again, I think that's due to a lack of depth rather than an unbelievable and undroppable quality. The issue we've got with England is and maybe it's reflective of the competitive nature of our league. Maybe it's reflective of the fact that we don't have as many English players who are playing for the top teams in our league. A lot of our best players play for mid and lower table teams because of the amount of foreign players that we've got in our league. But for me, it feels like every time we go to an international camp, whether it's for friendlies, whether it's Nations League, whether it's Euros, whether it's World Cup, nobody ever really knows what the squad is going to be. There's always who's going to get in and just what's going to be the starting lineup. And I think that's probably hurt us over the years, in that you look at the teams that do well, you can pick 15 players that you know will definitely go to the World Cup, and of those 15, you can pick 8 of them that will start pretty much every single game, and you're probably not going to be far wrong. There's very few shocks and surprises. And when there are shocks and surprises, it's normally a generational thing. It's normally a player that's on the cusp of aging out, and you feel like maybe they've been left at the squad a tournament too soon. But that's basically it. Whereas with England, every time it goes to a top major tournament, it's like, oh, who's going to be in the squad? And it's either under Southgate, it was very much like just picking the same players he's always picked, which again kind of worked out for him. But you're then sat there going, well, there's players who are in really good form that should be there. Or you end up in a situation like with Tuchel, where he picks players perhaps more based around a system, and then you still find yourself scratching your head because you're like, well, there's definitely players that you think should be there based on performances. You think it's justified certain players haven't gone because of their, just because of who they are, what their name is. But it just feels like we're in a weird catch-22 between a rock and a hard place.
We'll always be like that. We'll always be like that. I don't think we'll ever change. People always want different things. They want to pick the informed players. Those informed players play for lesser quality clubs. And then they also just want to pick the big names, and the big names are playing very well. And also, I think, but with Spain, nations like Spain, you never have this problem. It's always just the same players over and over because they're always performing at a decent level, whereas English players just seem to go up and down.
I also think, again, looking back at it, and obviously, again, I appreciate it's probably just before you started getting into watching football, but we look at the traditional golden generation for England, and you look at that squad, and the entirety of the squad came from the top 4 or 5 teams. It was the majority of them were Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and maybe a couple of Spurs players. And then there might have been 1 or 2 from maybe an Everton or something like that that were getting into the squad. But essentially it was the best players from the top 4 teams of the league. Whereas you look at how our league has evolved now, there's not that same dominance of English player at the top of the Premier League. I know it might change a little bit. You've got Elliot Anderson's now going to Man City or what have you, but you look at the teams at the top of the table and the majority of them aren't littered with England internationals anymore like it used to be. And I think that does hurt the quality of our squad a little bit though, doesn't it? It's like we haven't got the ability of those other nations. But I think compared to most nations, man for man, we're better than all of them. It's just as a team, every player plays different roles in all their clubs. Whereas like if you've got a whole squad of Spanish players all playing in Spain, they're going to play similar ways. But that's the bit I do find really strange is, again, you look at it in Spanish team historically is pretty much all Barcelona and Real Madrid, maybe a bit of Valencia creeping, maybe a bit of Atletico Madrid, but it's pretty much historically just been like the top 2 or 3 teams. The German team is pretty much always like mostly Bayern Munich and Dortmund. There might be the odd, Leverkusen player that creeps in kind of thing. And it's same with Italy. It's always historically been the big 3 players from the 2 Milans and Juventus. You might get a player from Roma or a Lazio player, depending on how they're doing at the time. And it's always worked exceptionally well because all of those leagues have got that sort of level of arrogance with their best players that they're willing to start them ahead of foreign players. Their best players they deem to be good enough to keep foreign players out of the team. Whereas
we've seen not only foreign players to begin with, the majority of their squads all consist of their own nation.
But this is great. It's a bit of a catch-22 that we've got with the Premier League, in that a lot of the top teams are not putting faith in English players to be able to keep foreign players out of the team, which is strange because if you look at our national team, like Jim quite rightly said, man for man in each position, we can name a squad of players that are genuinely exceptional, genuinely world class, and could on their day challenge anyone. And it makes you wonder, why aren't some of these players playing for the top teams in our league? Why isn't our league littered with elite level England players? And why are two of our greatest players playing abroad in Spain and Germany? It's little things like that I think if we want to have a great opportunity on winning a World Cup, but not just winning a World Cup, having our own period of dominance, like France have done, like Spain have done, like Germany have done, like Argentina have done, I feel like it needs to be addressed from like the ground level up. There needs to be effort put into to develop a style of play, a type of player, whatever that looks like, that then can be imprinted, and we're going to develop players good enough that we don't need to go abroad and sign the best defensive midfielder from Spain to sit in the middle of the midfield for Man City. We would have whoever it is ready to do that role and good enough to do that role. They're English, and it helps develop our own game. And I think that is something that this World Cup has kind of highlighted to me a little bit, is that as good as our squad is, and as much as we can definitely compete, and I think third place is a great achievement. We went into it ranked fourth in the world. We finished the World Cup effectively achieving it one place higher than our world ranking. But I also think it highlights the simple fact that actually, if we want to compete and we want to achieve a period of dominance, we need to address that balance and get more of our elite players playing at the top of our league. Because if you're turning up to major tournaments and your best players finish like 10th last season, it's probably not going to be good enough.
Yeah, there will always be a problem, unfortunately, because those big clubs in England are entities now, and that's the problem with our pyramid, is that it's all about the money and signing the biggest and the best, and at the moment, the English aren't valued at that.
No, and I guess what also makes it difficult is that we have this weird English player tax that appears to be a thing in the Premier League. That if you're trying to sign an English player from a competitive club, you pay 20, 30, 40 million more than what they're worth because they're English.
Christ, well, two of our players currently equate to £250 million in Rodgers and Anderson.
Which is mad when you consider that Rodgers struggled to get into the England team consistently.
It's mental, absolutely mental. I mean, admittedly, he was up against Jude. So, I mean, he's then also worth about, God, if Rodgers is worth 117 mil, then God knows how much he's worth. So apparently our squad's worth over, $1 billion?
And which I can kind of agree, but again, it's like I said, it's that weird English player tax. I guarantee if Rodgers was going abroad, his price tag, if it was a Spanish or Italian,
because it's another competitive team in the league, you don't want to help them, you just want to charge them an extra price. So it's all just money and business, and it's just, as much as I get it, it's stupid, it's killing our game. Slightly, but then we'll end up forgetting about it once the Premier League kicks off, and then we'll be like, oh, it's signed these players, oh, what a great addition. And we're part of the problem as well, because we're like, we want to see all these amazing players in the league. And yeah, it does affect our national team. And no, I don't think we'll ever win a World Cup in our lifetime. Because I really hope it goes probably high hope myself. But let's be realistic, based on all the evidence we suggest, we haven't got the players who have had the ball or experience. Too many of our players play too many lower league teams, and we don't have an identity that we can kind of stick to. Like the fact that we can go from one game of high press and pressure and quick counterattacks to then going to submissively defending with our arseholes bent over to the opposition. We had the worst metaphor ever, but it works.
Yeah, I'll make that one.
It's just like that. You don't see any other team really do it until like the final 5 minutes, because it's a natural thing to do.
Yeah.
So like Argentina, well, apart from Argentina, but the best fucking thing around. But we'll go to the final, and we will. I don't have much to say.
Well, I think before we move on to the final, I think one passing comment we spoke on the last episode in terms of whether or not Tuchel was the right man, and I still feel like, yes, he probably deserves another tournament, but the news that has been breaking over the last sort of 24, 48 hours has made me feel ever so slightly sick. What is it? Which is that Pep Guardiola could be in line to become the next Italy manager. And there is just a small bit of me that, considering he spent the last, however, 9 years, 8 years, or whatever it is in Manchester, is it not worth a phone call from the English FA just to be like, if you're interested in international management, what would you rather?
So I've changed
me that are lacking in quality.
I've changed my mind on this, actually, because remember the last one I said I'd only sack Tuchel if we can get Guardiola, and I changed my mind on it because I have been swayed by other people's opinions on it, and the fact that I don't want another international manager, because that's also part of the problem. No international manager has ever won a tournament at the World Cup. And there's a reason, because I was going to come on and say I hate Rory Jennings. I think he's a dick because he has no idea about football. But he was right about this, and other people agree, is the fact that having an international manager, tried with Capello, tried it with Sven. I mean, I love Sven, but didn't work for Sven. Didn't work with Tuchel. Like, it doesn't seem to ever work. At least like when Southgate came in, he didn't have a lot going for him. At least he kind of dragged us into a really good place of some sort of dominance and getting us into these positions, and he could feel the passion, and the players loved him and could get behind him. But at the moment now, we just seem to be having some like battle between our best player, Bellingham, against Tuchel, and they just don't like each other.
I don't even know that that's necessarily like happening.
Oh, again, I'm still watching. I know. So apparently Bellingham's family have come out and said that none of them like Tuchel. And which like you can tell, you can see by the way they act. The fact that he wasn't willing to actually even admit that he's good enough to even be starting for England anyway. And then you have that interview situation as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised they don't get along. But this is like international managers, like other English players didn't get along with Capello when he came in as well, because I think he banned ketchup or something like that came on. They just don't get the English way. Like, you don't take ketchup away from English people.
This is
like that would put me off straight away, and I'd say sack him just off that. I just think that, and then even having Guardiola, as much as he'd be great, made a very good point about the fact that you get all these good club level managers, and they're very good club level managers, but they're not international managers. They don't get it. They're not.
It's on the net. I think that's actually probably one of the most important things before we move on to the final here to recognise, is the fact that there is such a distinct difference between international and club level management, in that there have been exceptional club level managers who have struggled like fuck to get a tune out of a national team, and there have been exceptional international managers who have struggled like fuck when it comes to domestically managing clubs. Southgate is probably the greatest example. He was a bang average at best manager. When he got the first team role, obviously very initially it was interim and then it was made permanent. I'll be honest, I was like, what are we doing?
Yes, it was like,
all I had was a living memory of him at Borough getting relegated and just playing the shittest style of football, and everything about it, like, he just seemed to lack charisma. He seemed to lack understanding of how to actually set a team up to get a result. I just thought he's an awful manager. And then you get him in the England setup, and obviously he was fortunate. He came through again, obviously, right, so the under-21s, and had built a really good competitive squad that were making really great strides at that age group. And you go, okay, maybe there's something there. And it translated really, really well. And again, I think it also highlighted the fact that if you can get somebody that understands what it is to be an England player, because obviously
there's full starts.
Yeah, I think it carries so much weight. I think the challenge that we do have is, I feel like we are lacking quite heavily in terms of elite level English managers, in the same way that we tend to overhype some of our players and they're perhaps not as good as we think. I also don't think we've got a great deal of managers that you would look at and go, they would be amazing for the national team. And frustratingly, I actually think one of the managers that might well have got a tune out of the players and actually done great things as an England manager lasted 5 minutes, because he may have said or done things he shouldn't. And I actually genuinely think Big Sam could have been the manager that actually was able to, because he's about as English as you can get. He's he could have set us up in a way that would have got the best out of the players that we have got, would have made them defensively astute, would have understood everything that it is to be English and represent your country at a major tournament. And it could have been a great appointment. Unfortunately, we will never know, because,
well, best English manager today, though. 100% win record. No one else can ever say that, and it'll go down in the hearts of everyone. I don't think there's anyone at the moment, which kind of begs the question, like, do we end up just sacking Tuchel? I probably still would. I'd probably just have anyone English at this moment in time. I'd ask Eddie Howe if he'd want to go in. Would he be able to cope? Maybe not, because again, even a club level manager in his life is still so young. So would he want to sell for international management? But Southgate wasn't exactly old. Was he? And he sells it. Why is everyone? Bring Southgate back, I say. Bring him back for the home Euros. Let him rectify the last Euros we hosted in 2020 or /21. Let him rectify that. Let him win what he should have won now.
It's not a bad shout. Also, if he does get the England job back, it does mean that if things start to get a bit wobbly with Michael Carrick, he's not going to be a name in the hat to be at United. So that would be nice. Keep him away from that. But yeah, I think that. Yeah, anyhow, wouldn't be a bad shout. But again, I think he's already. I think his same reservations there in terms of I don't feel like I've seen enough from him since leaving Bournemouth. I think what he did with Bournemouth, but maybe that's the thing though, isn't it though? Because they got all these top class managers that have been linked with national team jobs who do really well at club level, but then seem to get it wrong at international level. But then maybe Eddie Howe's just kind of met his match. He's done his day, get him into the international setup. And actually, maybe his reflection of what he did with Bournemouth in terms of how he dragged them all the way through to the Premier, so they got relegated and came back again. Like maybe that's an indicator that he might be the right man from an England job perspective, because he wasn't dealing with exceptional world talent that for what have you. He was actually dealing with a large portion of English players, getting them to play a particular way, getting them to achieve a particular work rate and a particular style. So again, maybe he would be a good hit.
I just think anyone English with Frank Lampard. But then I don't think he's ready yet, because I think he's just going through his Eddie Howe spell, where he'll go with Coventry and see how that pans out, and then he'll probably jack in and go to England. And
I think we can all agree that the two former England great legends that shouldn't get the job as the next England manager, if we look to change, is it certainly shouldn't be Wayne Rooney or Steven Gerrard.
I knew you were going to say both of them. I knew you say Gerrard anyway. Yeah, no, I think Gerrard should never manage again. And I don't think Rooney should ever manage again. I don't think Rooney ever wants to manage again, which I think is probably the best thing. He's a good pundit, though, to be fair. I enjoy watching Wazza, to be fair. He's a good pundit. He's honest, and he's not too overly critical. And then he's also pretty, brutal when he needs to be. And so I
think Rooney is one of those that reads the game and understands the game exceptionally well. He's probably got a very good coach's brain. I just don't think he's perhaps necessarily the right personality, mentality to get the best out there from a managerial perspective. I feel like he would be an amazing assistant manager and an amazing coach, and I think he would help players to improve. I just don't think he's necessarily the best manager in that perspective. That's probably,
you just can't remind me of Eddie Howe was the England out Jason Tyndall with him. Imagine him against Argentina in a semi-final where they're the aerial pitches. Oh God, I
actually want to see it.
I want to see.
I was very much like, give Tuchel another tournament. He's taken us to our best ever finish. We finished third. That suggests that we should reach the next final. But based on steady progress, will he get us over the line? But I'm willing to park that and be like, no, I don't want a German to be the person that helps us win a World Cup, because I think we'll never live it down. Get Tyndall in there. And then let them bust it up. Let them do their thing and let Tyndall get into fight underside.
And just only comes over and Jason Tyndall just tells him to fuck off.
I love it. Oh, God. And the thing is, it'll be a little bit like my favourite highlight from the whole World Cup. The Mexican manager asking Bellingham for his shirt for his dad, and then calling Gordon's name. And as he turns around, telling him to fuck off and just laughing in his face. Best thing I saw at this entire World Cup. The difference is if we had Tyndall, he would do the exact same thing. He just wouldn't laugh afterwards. It would literally be the intention of the fight.
I love it. I also just want to know, I know I completely changed my opinion on the whole managerial thing, so I don't need people to point it out. I am aware. I'm human. I'm allowed to change my mind.
It's the key thing about being evidence-based is that you have to accept that you will change your views based on information put forward and data that begin. We're not set in stone here.
No, we like to grow with the times, and times are always growing.
Yeah. So we haven't really touched upon it in any great deal. Let's dig straight into the World Cup final, and I want to start off. It's going to sound a bit strange to ones. Football 100%
won that day, and it was the best day of the whole tournament.
Yeah. Absolutely loved it. What I do want to do, because it is the GK Union podcast, I think 10 of the 11 players that started, plus the subs that came on for Argentina, were an absolute shit show and an absolute disgrace. I think there was one player on that pitch for Argentina who as much as it pains me to say, because I don't really like him, can hold his head high based on two minutes alone is Martinez. I thought he was very, very good. Now, I wouldn't say he made world-class saves in the same way that he did when they beat France, where he made that amazing save 1v1, which was kind of like a match-winning save. I don't think there was any moments like that, but I think across the entire game, he kept it from being embarrassing.
Well, he saved more shots in that game than Unai Simon had the entire tournament.
Yeah, and again, I think that was
11 versus 10 for anyone. But
that was the next bit I wanted to come on to. Again, as we are the GK Union, I thought Martinez, his performance was exceptional from a goalkeeper perspective. Biggest game in the world, the most amount of pressure. They're trying to go back to back. There's all of the hysteria around them. The fact that there's lots of people claiming that it's being rigged and they've benefited unfairly and what have you. And he just went about his business exceptionally well. But you raise a really, really valid point. The Golden Glove.
Am I under the impression the fact that that's awarded to the best goalkeeper in the tournament?
No, most clean sheets, I believe.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, I think so. I think because they do team of the tournament.
I don't think it is, because Martinez won it the last tournament. I don't think he had the most clean sheets.
Sure. We'll have to. Typically, Golden Glove is the most clean sheets. I'm under the impression it's the same for the World Cup. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something different. But it raises the question I wanted to raise, is that I get a bit frustrated with Golden Glove awards going to the keeper that has the most clean sheets, because, for example, in this tournament, yes, Seymour was very, very good. But when you play 5 games, 6 games, how many games were there in total in this World Cup? 3 in the including versus 6, 7 games.
3 in the group, 32, 16, quarterfinal, semi-final,
so 8 games.
7 games against the Flaming.
Yeah. When you play that many games and you've only faced 10 shots at the end of it, that to me is not reflective of he was the best goalkeeper at the tournament. Yes, he's obviously had to save the shots that he's had to face. But when you're facing so few, that tells me you've got the best defence and the best midfield at the tournament. There's a big difference between, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper at the tournament and the one that keeps the most clean sheets. It's a bit different if he kept the most clean sheets and he had the highest shot spaced and shots per save ratio. You go, yeah, absolutely warranted. But there's so many goalkeepers that performed unbelievably well and made save after save after save and really gave an incredible account of themselves. Goalkeepers like Bono, for example, who save fuckloads of penalties, and just because they don't make it to the final, or just because they don't have a back four in front of them that's offering up less than a shot every, it's like they basically offered up less than a shot per half. I find it really frustrating that yes, he deserves recognition for only conceding 1 goal the whole tournament, but at the same time, I feel like there should be 2 very separate awards. A clean sheet award, fine, that there should be a specific recognition for the goalkeeper with the greatest stats, the best save percentage across the tournament. And maybe, have a cut-off. Maybe they have to have played at least 1 knockout game as well, because you could have a keeper that's at an absolutely terrible team that makes 13 saves a game and they still lose 5-0 in each match and go,
yeah. I mean, with the award though, this was kind of like a big anomaly. Well, that was a confusing word after a long day. Anomaly, just because usually if you do have the most clean sheets, you tend to make the most saves, and it's also a mixture of defence and goalkeeper. It just so happened to be the fact that Spain was so good. It's just that I think he wasn't being needed for 80 minutes of every game. But then saying that, in the final, we probably actually atoned for all those things, because when Messi went through, in the first 5 minutes, he was there, swept it up, and that could have been a completely different scenario, because let's be honest, Messi's going to finish that if he gets to it first. So all he could do was set off and Messi took it around, and it would have been the last man. So yeah, I think just he had such moments that when called upon, he was just there. And the fact, although he didn't make as many saves, it's all about those moments, and those moments of goalkeepers. Your defence can be great for 80 minutes, then your goalkeeper's got to be great for the other 10. And I think he was in the final, and I think he just showed his level of class and the reason why Spain is a machine. Like,
Yeah, I do just think it highlights, because again, we get it with the Premier League. The winner of the Golden Glove each year obviously gets it for the most clean sheets. My frustration with that is typically they're at the top end of the table when you look at shots spaced, shots saved, goals prevented. Typically, the goalkeepers with the best stats are mid-table and below, but they've got no open house chance of winning a Golden Glove award because they're in a team that's getting peppered every week. And I feel like there almost needs to be that distinction. There needs to be two awards, like the keeper that has achieved the greatest statistics and made the most saves from the most amount of shots, and the goalkeeper that's had the most clean sheets, because it's a bit like the Ballon d'Or situation.
Yeah,
You're never going to get a goalkeeper that keeps the most clean sheets because they've made the most saves.
but but Nick Pope had it one year where he repeat Drew or something with Raya or Edison or something like that, I think, if I'm right in saying. It can be done. It's just the fact that their ability they're playing at a level that they're good enough to play at, and unfortunately it's like with a team that's going to be shit and then a better one, they are just going to have more shots against those shit teams. Your best goalkeepers, like, you know, your Neuers back in the day would perform on every stage no matter what that was. So even if you're playing against the better teams who also have another good goalkeeper, they're the moments where they prove that that's like Rye did it loads this season, because Arsenal defence wasn't exactly tip top, and he proved exactly why he not only got the most clean sheets, but also why he probably is the best goalkeeper in the league by a country mile. But yeah, it goes to show the fact that, you know, Simon, if you call him Simon. Well, we are English, we are, yeah. Unai Simon got in ahead of Raya, but then I don't think that's a goalkeeper level dispute. I think that's a preference.
Yeah, it's been like very much so, because again, it comes back to what we said before in terms of it was a bit of a shock when they moved De Gea out of the team at the point they did for Unai Simon, but he's proven himself undroppable.
It's the bill because he's an all-round good goalkeeper, whereas De Gea was an amazing shot stopper, but technically with his feet, he wasn't very good, whereas Spain play a very late. You know, I think Simon spent more time with the ball at his feet than he did in his hands in total.
So speaking of ball in hands for Unai Simon, moment of the final for me was towards the end when he came to the edge of his 18-yard box and collected a cross on ball into the box very routinely, and then proceeded in slow motion to throw himself sideways like he'd made a save. He just led on the floor, which was the best bit of shithousery, because it's normally the kind of thing that you do see from Emi Martinez, and is one of the reasons why I really don't like him as a player, because he is just full of 11. It's just Argentinian. Yeah, so he's just a cunt. He's just a cunt on the field. But I did find myself absolutely pissing myself with laughter at that, on the basis that it was just, everything about it was just so unnecessary. It's the kind of thing that you see on social media all the time of goalkeepers just being absolute dickheads for the sake of it. And it was the fact that he's in a World Cup final in a game where Argentina had already lost their heads at this point. And I mean, they lost their heads from like fucking the kickoff, basically. But it's just, he just did not give a fuck.
Anyways, the best sort of karma that game was, it's like the world finally kind of like, you know, and the world levels out, like there's too much chaos and it finally comes back to normality. Like, you know, you've had your fun, now it's back to normal life, normality regimes, and Spain winning it, kind of the world won. I think I'd say the entire world won on Sunday. The only country that didn't win was Argentina.
Yeah, and I thought it was very fitting that a team that had, in my opinion, scrapes through each of their knockout games.
Oh, they are doing right, that shit. And then making political statements and getting away with every card ever. Like, they still made about God knows how many fouls, and the fact they only had one red card again was stupid, because again, McAllister basically killed someone in the first half. Yeah, within the first 5 minutes, but because it's the first 5 minutes, it's Argentina, you actually get a green card.
So, you know, then there was a horrendous attempted challenge from behind on Yamal as well, where if he had connected with a little bit more force on the back of his leg, genuinely could have been a leg.
Yeah, it's fucking shoot, and he gets away with it. And the whole of Argentina does it was all built around them to go and win. It's the final farewell. It's just lots of bullshit. And then the audacity of the Argentina players to then start punching and throwing Spanish players around, because they did not even intentionally doing exactly what they were doing, just because they had just won a final and they happened to be in their city, then decide to start behaving the way they did. Like, whatever his name, Guates, is that his name?
I'm not sure.
Or whatever that prick's name is that fucking punched and punched someone and threw Gary on the floor.
Paredes.
Yeah, Paredes, like he deserves to be suspended for a year, but what will happen? He won't, and he's just stupid. And yeah,
Yourselves were on the subject of that, the melee at the end of the game. The mad thing about it is it started because Rodri was running across the pitch celebrating, and one of the players, and I can't remember who it was, I thought it was Montiel, but it wasn't, it was somebody else, punches him in the stomach. And I think it was Gabby, I think it might have been, saw it, so went over and was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Paredes went in and starts throwing. It's just in the funny rounds, all that, one of their coaches punches Danny Olmo in the face. Yeah. And so you've got a player and a coach who throw punches. You've got Paredes that's grabbed somebody by the throat, throw somebody to the floor, and then wrestle somebody else to the floor. And all because they deemed the celebrations excessive. Coming from the same team who, when they knocked Holland out on penalties in the last World Cup semi-final, all of them ran across, like, in front of the Dutch players and celebrated in their faces. They didn't just run to Martinez to celebrate that we've won a penalty shootout. The entire team went via the Dutch team and taunted them in their face. And they did the same against England in the semi-final when they scored the equaliser. That gingerhead cunt that's been at Brighton ran up and celebrated in the face of three of our players. Wasn't even on the pitch. Whoever was up front for them at that point in time as well, which might have been Lautaro Martinez, gloated over Jordan Pickford and then celebrated in the face of John Stones. At the end of the game, they celebrated like absolute fucking cunts in front of us and then unveiled a political banner. And then they have the cheek to be annoyed that Rodri is running from the bench diagonally across the pitch, to catch up with his teammates to go and celebrate winning the World Cup.
It's honestly, it's a joke. And the way they behave, they did it in 2016 against France. They basically just behaved like animals, kicked off and threw their toys at the pram. They did it in 2022 as well against Holland, where they just basically kicked off and threw the ball at their bench and behaved like cunts. They did the same, and it's just fucking foul. Like, they've always been like it. I hate every single Argentinian player. I don't like him. If I see them play in the Premier League, I will just play with them more. I don't know, do something childish, probably, like put a little thing up to them. Yeah, hoping that they'll see. Telling their Sega fans. I'll send them a message on Instagram so they have. And have you seen the Enzo Fernandez one from the League Cup finals against Liverpool? Where he's like, I thought, unlucky Enzo, what? And then he turns around and tries to square up him through. Oh, it's great. And someone sent him a message saying that after they lost the final, comedy gold. I also think that all of their press releases that each of their players have put out so far have been absolutely diabolical in the fact that they've all completely overlooked the fact that they did act like absolute cunts. Oh, because they don't see anything wrong with it. They're built up to do that. Like, that's just the Argentinian way.
Yeah.
Like, they do it worse than any other nation, but the problem is they get away with it as well.
Yeah.
And because they're so big and glorified and they have Messi, like, God knows what they'll be like when Messi doesn't play for them. But honestly, they deserve terrible things out of some. I don't know, for whatever reason, their national team gets fined a hefty amount. And I don't know, Donald Trump takes over Argentina. Yeah. And they then can't play national team football anymore.
I think they definitely deserve a ban from.
They do. They deserve like a year ban from any football. They should get banned from the next competition. It was foul, and the way they just disrespected Spain after they won it as well. But then when any other team, when France lost them the year before, they had good etiquette and absolutely,
which is strange coming from the French. But I know etiquette is a French word, but I wouldn't say that the arrogance of the French normally permits them to be overly gracious. But
then again, anyone's got good etiquette when it comes to Argentina. Like, you could have
honestly, I could have taken a shit on the stage just before they lifted the trophy. It'd still be more respectful than at least it's Argentinian.
Honestly, apart from ribs, that can stay. But
are they exclusively?
They're not, but I think they're Argentinian.
They're free. That's very.
Yeah, believe so.
I would have said if it originated from a South American country, it'd probably be Brazilian, but who knows?
We might be wrong. Someone tell us in the comments.
Yeah, it is wrong. It is wrong. Who first came up with the idea of the ribs? Which nation? That's.
I'm going Argentina, even though I hate them, but I do believe they come good for that. That's already saving grace. Other than that, I want them taken over, like Venezuela.
What I did enjoy with regards to the final, I don't necessarily think it was completely warranted, but I did love the fact that the golden ball went to Rodri. And not to Messi like everyone was expecting.
Did you? I didn't think you'd go Messi. I thought it'd go Rodri.
Well, I The reason why I wasn't sure it would go to Rodri is because, again, if you look at obviously the stats of players and you just look at the hype around Messi, I just thought the fact that his goals and assists were pretty decent throughout the tournament. They were games that he was shit for 70% of the tournament. Completely. I don't think Messi. I don't think he deserved it by any stretch. But I had this horrible feeling that
I see what you mean. Yeah, I think it's his last tournament. Mostly,
he kept getting man of the match in games.
Yeah,
when he wasn't the best player, or probably wasn't the best player.
He probably did because he's carried on 0-3.
But I get what you mean. I thought it might be coming, and even on. So I watched on BBC, and even they were sort of putting it out there that the Golden Ball. Is it going to go to Messi? Is it going to be a nod to, he had a very effective tournament for goal involvement. And I just really enjoyed the fact that it went to Rodri.
I think he deserved it.
Yeah, I think, again, he was exceptional. I think my only gripe with regards to and I felt the same when he won the Ballon d'Or. I don't know, there's just something about a defensive midfielder getting awarded the best player, particularly at a World Cup. There's just a small part of me that goes, I just like it to go to a player that's more impactful in a.
But he was anyway. It's such an just because he doesn't get the goals and assists. It's just he is the cog that turns that T or clog.
He is the Dutch shoe.
He's the Dutch shoe in that team. He is the cog that keeps that Spanish team churning. Although they're all amazing and they do somewhat okay, he's basically the regen of Sergio Busquets. Maybe not as good, but. Also, maybe he is because he won a Ballon d'Or. So he's.
But yeah, I think back was probably unhelped or unaided by the fact that at the time when he was at his absolute best, he's in front of him and Messi in their squad as well. They was winning the Ballon d'Or for fun. If it wasn't him, it was Ronaldo. So Busquets could have been 40
quite easily, and he was great.
And he could have been 40 times the player Rodri is, and he still wouldn't have won the Ballon d'Or unless he started scoring 80 goals from defensive midfield. So.
Very important part. I'm glad that he gets it because it's nice for defensive people to get recognition. And
I just think it's a shame that it's never going to get to a point where a goalkeeper is going to get an award for being the best player.
But that's I wouldn't want it to either. We got our own award, so.
Yeah, I was special on Ballon. I feel like there should be, we said on the last one of the last episodes, I think it should be a Ballon d'Or for goalkeeper.
They have the Yashin Award, don't they? Amongst players.
I think they should actually have a much more secret,
because they might start taking them what we have away. Doesn't bite the hand that feeds you. Start asking for a Ballon d'Or for goalkeepers, and we're just asking for people just to take things away from us. This should be grateful. We will never go our way. Neuer's the closest it's come to. And he arguably should have won it, but Messi, Ronaldo period again. Van Dijk was another one of the defensive players who probably actually should have won it. I think actually
David De Gea should have won it, but it was probably the fact that United were underperforming as much as they were came at a detriment to his chances a bit, on the basis that if we'd have been winning titles with him making the saves that he was making, I think he's more likely to get recognition. But because we were finishing 6th and 7th, it gets overshadowed just how absolutely insanely good he was at the time. But yeah, I did enjoy watching them, because the Golden Balls of Rodri, on the basis that I just had that horrible feeling that it was going to be Messi's got the Golden Ball, and be like,
I don't think he didn't want it. I actually don't think he'd be able to cover.
And I enjoyed watching him cry.
I enjoyed watching him cry because he was a horrible little shitbag as well. I lost a lot of respect for him then. In that game, just the way he was trying to get Cucurella sent off because he itched his fucking nose.
Yeah, what was amusing about that is when you see that video of him turning to the referee to say that Cucurella covered his mouth by doing this. The best bit about it is you've got Enzo Fernandez is arguing that he shouldn't have a second yellow red card with the referee aggressively with his hand over his mouth. So I'm like, even if you go, Cucurella covered his mouth and it's not a yellow somehow miraculously for Enzo Fernandez, he still should have had a straight red because he's literally having a go at the referee with his mouth covered. But what was the worst part about that yellow card, I don't know if you've seen the video, one of their defenders, the minute he goes into that challenge and the referee gives the free kick and he's walking over and goes to his pocket, one of the Argentinian defenders throws himself on the floor and starts holding his leg. And Messi comes over after he shows the yellow and tries to get the referee's attention on the player that's on the ground in the hope that it sparks some kind of review that there's a foul before the foul to supersede the yellow card. And I'm like, what level of lunacy do you have to have?
Cheating. Yeah, they just cheating.
But I could get it if there wasn't VAR. But it was so reminiscent of a couple of seasons ago, Manchester Derby, when Kyle Walker tried to get Rasmus Højlund sent off for a headbutt. There wasn't, and he just fell to the floor holding his space. And you're like, there's 4 billion cameras around the pitch, and there's a whole team of people in a little room that are going to look at everything from every angle. You don't need to play acts anymore. Like, if it happened, it will get picked up, and they say, "Also, should play something."
Yeah, of course, yeah, it won't. But yeah, at level alone, there will always just be cheats. There we go. There's unfortunately karma comes at you fast,
Really fast.
really fast.
Although I was panicking when that goal got disallowed, and it went to VAR, and they went with the referee's on-field decision of a free kick, because whilst there was a slight graze on his toe, I have to be honest, like Wilson shit, it was just, that was the softest foul ever. And I get the on-field decision to play for a foul because Otamendi threw himself down like he'd been shot. So I think in real time, you can understand the referee being like, I think there's a foul there, the ball's gone in, I'm going to give the foul and let VAR bail him out if it's wrong. But the fact that VAR looked at it and went, nice.
See, now I would have gone with the opposite. I would have said that you should have let the goal stand and then have VAR bail him out if he's got it wrong. Because then I think you would have been more inclined to let the goal stand because it wasn't really a lot in it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, it's a bullshit again watching, but I don't care anymore because Argentina's got what they deserve.
Yeah.
And that is a big fat L in a final of the World Cup again.
Yeah. Do we think that's the end of Messi and an Argentinian shirt?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it is. And I hope Argentina suffer because of it. And they realise they were a one-man team.
Do we think it's fucking hilarious that Real Madrid were almost dead certs to buy Enzo Fernandez, and after what he did in the semis and the final, they've pulled out of the deal and don't want him anymore?
Might be surprising, and I don't think Chelsea will want him back either.
Well, I think they're absolutely fucked now because they want 100 million plus for him, and pretty much the only team that would have been able to afford to A, buy him, and B, his wages was Real Madrid, and now they're not interested. I think they're going to get completely stuck. And I am fairly certain that part of their decision making around the Morgan Rogers deal was that they thought they were getting 100 mil for Fernandez in this window, which that tickles me a little bit.
Yeah, and now he's on good to Madrid because he can try killing one of the Spanish players.
Yeah,
which I love that. I love that unity because although and obviously because of his behaviour, but I love the fact that Real Madrid didn't have a single player registered at the World Cup for Spain. They still just shit out Argentina anyway. I'm not going pets and children about it. So
yeah,
good on them. Good on them. Yeah, and Cucurella is the best left back in the world.
Well, you say Real Madrid didn't have any Spanish players there, but obviously Cucurella at the time was scored, he's announced was a Chelsea player, but he is now a Real Madrid.
Yeah, so he's as of the World Cup, he is a registered Chelsea FC World Cup winner. So Chelsea have that to their name, another World Cup winner, as well as, I mean, us, Enzo Fernandez. Yeah, didn't he signed after the World Cup? So he was registered with Benfica.
Yeah,
so whoever it was.
Yeah, quite probably. So I think we should recap a few of our favourite moments from the World Cup, our favourite goalkeeping performances, saves, and we should also revisit pre-tournament predictions. I obviously said from the outset I felt it was going to be an England-France final and it was coming home. I was really close. That game happened on the Saturday.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're close. You picked two right teams for each other on the final weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the final was on the Saturday. So I suppose
that's what you. I mean, you wanted us to lose against Argentina because we were losing us to the final.
Yeah,
I can't remember what I said. I know that in my prediction league, I put Spain to win the whole thing. So
yeah, I think you might have called Spain early on, and maybe you said Morocco were going to go far.
Morocco's good.
They did do a good job again.
Right, they came up against a really good French team. It's kind of hard to beat that team unless you're the eventual World Cup winners. So, yes, can't be helped. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I called Spain. I'm sure someone will correct me. I'm not sure I said they play in the final. I'm pretty sure I said England.
Yeah, I have a funny thing you might have said France, particularly because I think we made our predictions on episode 1 and there'd already been a couple of games that happened at that point. So
yeah, but I've said France though, because there was no way they could have actually made it unless France or Spain finished second in their group, because they were always destined to meet the semi-final.
Yeah, but I think because obviously they get Spain looked bang average against Cape Verde game 1. I think maybe that influenced and France were exceptional in the first half of the tournament. like blowing teams away. So
Maybe not. I'm not saying or maybe I don't care. But yeah, in my prediction league, I did call Spain to win, and that's 2 tournaments where I've called Spain to win, and they won both of them for me. Although I looked at my predictions, so I lost the league by a country mark.
I also vaguely remember you putting a small bet on Holland on the basis of somebody who apparently had called the last 4 World Cup.
Yeah, sounds in that. Called the last 3 World Cup winners, and they finally put Holland in. And I go, oh yeah, he must be from it.
Yes, and then they fell at the first hurdle after the group stages. So I think if let's quick fire team of the tournament for you.
Cape Verde.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was going to say
Switzerland.
Yeah, I think they did all right. I think they did okay. Yeah, I think Cape Verde for me were team of the tournament just because they very nearly knocked out the holders, to be honest with you. They were within a few minutes of doing so.
Should have. God, imagine England playing Cape Verde. I'd have let them gone through. I'd let them miss the final. That'd be great. So what spectacle. Cape Verde win a World Cup before we do in our lifetime.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they were probably team of the tournament. Surprise of the tournament. For me, I think it was the fact that in the first round of knockouts we lost Germany and Holland in the first 2 knockout games. I thought both of those teams.
I don't think Holland is shocking just because they come up against Morocco.
Yeah, well, I just think again you look at both of their squads collectively. I didn't necessarily think they were going to be getting to quarters or semis, but I called
Germany was a fair one. They were absolutely shocking, losing to a team that got battered 4-1 by the United States of America. But yeah, Holland, I don't think was shocking just because Morocco are just that clog that keeps on turning.
Yeah.
Against another shoe, in the touch shoe. Against the surprise. So they're just I'm not surprised they lost because he could have gone either way. They got a good enough team, and Netherlands just don't seem to have that oomph they used to have before when they again passed by Argentina.
Special mention for me as well, Canada as well deserve a lot.
I loved Canada. I really to do well.
Really enjoyed the way that they played. Unlucky to go out when they did as well. To be honest with you, I don't think that they were disgraced by any stretch, but the fact that they'd never picked up a point at a World Cup and they got through to the last 16.
Yeah.
And they managed to do that. Their best player, let's not forget, was floating in the leg.
I was actually really happy with all those nations. I feel a bit bad for the US because everybody now hates them because of obviously Donald Trump, and so it's a bit unfair for them.
But he sued them anyway because of him. But yeah, I think that massively owned.
Yeah, but footballing wise, like I really enjoyed watching them play because I thought they were actually pretty good. They surprised me quite a lot, but then Mexico did as well as they usually do, and then Canada did a lot better than anyone thought they would over the US. So I think they all actually made a good name for themselves. To be fair, it's just a shame that the US got let down by Donald Duck.
Yeah, I think Mexico
don't come on cost.
Yeah, no, so they get that. I think Mexico deserve the award for best fans. I think all Mexico best fans, all of the footage afterward, they got knocked out by England. In the song celebrating, like genuinely, it was so nice. Just that they seem like the friendliest people, which is really strange because again, if you listen to Donald Trump, they're all doing drugs and they're all committing rapes and they're crossing the border just to rape American women and deposit their drugs and then they go back again. But from what I saw, their fans were absolute legends. They were, for me, they actually reflected a little bit like, I don't know if you remember the last World Cup with the Japanese fans, where their fans were going around like cleaning the stadiums of litter and stuff after each game, which was absolutely insane. I thought the Mexican fans, just the way that they interacted with every team that they faced, win, lose or draw, their fans were absolutely brilliant, showed real class and maturity. So I think they deserve the nod for best fans.
Yeah, I would agree.
GK Union, we obviously have to pick who we think was the standout goalkeeper from the tournament, or best goalkeeping performance might be a bit easier rather than overall, if you think there's 2 other things. But
Cape Verde's goalkeeper against Sicilian
was, he had a couple of matches like it, didn't he, where he was,
that one that took the most terrible.
Curacao, their keeper as well, it was either their second or their third game, made like the most amount of saves at the tournament, 15 saves in a year. And again, some of those were exceptionally good against.
Can't remember the others.
Got battered by Germany. Who is in their group? it was another good team as well, wasn't it?
I also couldn't tell you. It feels like 2-2 so long ago. It was like I've aged so much.
I feel like, probably best goalkeeping performance in a game, probably Curaçao's goalkeeper for the 15 saves. Best overall goalkeeping performance, I think, Scott, because he got a great tournament. Again, special mentions to Martinez's performance in the final, Simon for conceding 1 goal throughout the entire tournament, but he did only face 10 shots.
He saved everything that he did, and all his job is.
So everything, he let one in. He saved 90%.
It was a good goal, though.
Yeah,
to be fair.
Goal of the tournament. What are we thinking?
Do you know what? I can't remember most of them. I'm just going to say Ferran Torres's because at the moment it was just so good. But I just can't remember a lot of them.
I know Mbappe scored a couple of absolute.
He did, didn't he? In worldies.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm going to go, though. I'm actually going to go Cape Verde's goal against Argentina.
That was a good goal.
Their second goal. I'm going to give that goal in the tournament for me.
Yeah, no, I would.
Not least because of actually at the time, obviously, brought them back to 2-2 in extra time, and you would have thought when you go 2-1 down in extra time, you'd think perhaps going to run out of legs, and for that lad just to pop up where he did at the angle it's against the goalkeeper like Martinez, who is actually pretty well renowned for making unbelievable saves at that sort of moment in games, particularly big games. Is normally a player that, a bit like Pickford, elevates himself the bigger the game. So yeah, to pull that out of the bag was, I think that probably sneaks goal in the top.
Yeah, no, that's a fair shot. I just don't remember lots of them. Not very good for remembering goals, and I didn't watch them.
I think it's probably the only drawback of having 104 games in this World Cup is it's so fucking difficult to remember key moments.
It's like so long ago. 6 weeks have honestly flown by. Now it feels like it's like the end of the school holidays. When you get to the start of school holidays, the 6 weeks by, and then you're like, oh fuck, we're back to school this month. Yeah, Premier League starts in like 2-3 weeks time.
Yeah,
and the Football League starts in like a week or two.
Yeah,
and it's always like school starts up again. It's like, oh, we barely had a break. Well, that's great for this podcast.
Yeah, and obviously we will be back in the coming season. We will be talking all things Premier League, Champions League, and domestic cups. We'll be making our predictions in episode 1 for that team, and we'll be writing it down this time so we can refer back to it. Because it's a much longer.
I'll have to do a league with it as well and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, we'll do a full 1 to 20 positions. See how many we get right. We'll basically everything you see on Sky Sports Monday Night Football and the overlap, we're just going to rip that off.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I was thought. But if anyone else has any suggestions on what lists and like players and stuff and comparisons we can do, then do leave them in the comments and we'll give them a go. But if not, we'll just rip off other podcasts and steal their ideas.
Yeah, pretty much. But we will be back for that. If this was the BBC or ITV or something of higher production value and not just us sat in my bar at home with an England flag pinned to the wall behind us, we'd probably do some fun montage where we recap our best moments, the World Cup's best moments, but I can't be fucked to do the editing on that. So
it's only an interview mainly of us anyway.
Yeah, we do. So we're not going to do a little montage, but what we will say is thank you for coming on this journey with us through the World Cup, listening to our rambles, and we will obviously see you when we're back for the new season, the
Premier League season.
So yeah, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, and share, and do all that good stuff. But it's been emotional, and we will be back for the Premier League season, and then in 2 years' time for the Euros. We'll see you soon.